Good day, everyone. I want to talk to you quickly about something that came to me over the weekend. I've been struggling a while with wondering what to tell you and what to say because every sermon at the moment in the world is about hope, and even sometimes that if you believe in Jesus Christ, you won't get sick. That may not always be the case, because God has a different path for each of us, and He determines the way in which we live it. And if we get sick and we die, then we still go home, but that we know as Christians. But then I thought, there's so many Christians around the world at the moment that speak Christianity but don't live it, and we are inclined to always say that the life of a Christian isn't easy. And in some instances that may be the case, but it depends on your point of view. For a life with God is always easy. If I think back on my life so far, and I'm younger than most people I know, there were times of pain and uphill battles, but there were more times of blessing, more times of grace, and more times of happiness, which in the end means that there were only times when things were a little less easy, but things were never really hard. For in 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, God said to Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you." And if we live our lives according to this grace of God, putting every aspect of our life in connection with His grace and measuring it according to His grace, we will see how easy it is to be a Christian. And if we realize that all the promises God makes us only comes from His love, and all He asks is, believe in me and live like I ask you, not for Himself but for us. And that's my point, that at the moment people are listening to doomsayers. They're believing in all these articles about how the world is going to be after the coronavirus pandemic, about how bad things are at the moment in the world, and they believe it. They believe in all these theories and ideologies, and yet there's a God who says, believe in me and I will save you, who's made promises from Genesis 1 to the end of the book of Revelation, and who's always kept His promises. But we don't believe that. And if we look at the life of a Christian being easy, I watched this show this weekend and I got the following quote from it, and the guy says that when it comes to war and being in battle, you know that the guy next to you is willing to die for you, and you know you are willing to do the same. And you look around you and you think, it shouldn't take a war to make life this easy. And that's true. The world is supposed to be very simple in the sense that we should care for one another, and at the moment that is what we're lacking. Because even we as Christians think that we can get away with breaking certain rules that the governments have set. We have our masks, but we don't wear them. We go out with any possible reason just to do so, while we actually in the back of our minds know that it's not the right thing to do. Yes, we all fail sometimes, but the fact of the matter is, do you think about others before you think of yourself? Jesus didn't think of Himself when He was crucified. He didn't think of Himself even when He, as God, planned to come and save us by being crucified. He always thought of the other person, of us. And we don't think about others. We only think about ourselves. The book of Nehemiah says in 8 verse 10, Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Yes, in this time, strength seems to be a distant memory, and living a life that's according to our knowledge and our perception normal. But our joy should be in the Lord. And if our joy is in the Lord and we find our strength in that, we will have the strength to realize that we should make life easier for those around us before we think of making life easy for ourselves. God makes life easy for us by giving us eternal life, by blessing us, by letting the sun come up, by giving us people to love. There's a quote from the Winnie the Pooh movies that says, "How lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." And that's true, because if all of us didn't care about each other, people dying in the world wouldn't bother us so much. It's a blessing to have fellow human beings, people that you can care for, and it's a blessing to be able to care. And at the moment, caring is staying home, obeying the rules, and not complaining about rules set by people that work for God. Because in this pandemic, the world is actually working for God, as it in a sense always is. So remember that, and think for a moment about your family and how you would want others to treat your family during this pandemic before you see yourself as essential, while there's only one essential being in the world, and that's Jesus Christ. Pray for those who are really essential workers, and pray for those who are sick, because the world doesn't need war to make the world simple. It only needs the love of Christ, and that love is giving and caring. And if we forget to do that, then we are in a sense signing off and saying we don't need that as well. So please obey the rules and remember to have the essential person in your life, to have God in your life, and find your joy in the Lord. Thank you.